In this video, we are going to talk about types of British visas. Hi everybody, my name is Storani. I'm your international career consultant, and today in this video I'm interviewing the solicitor Usman Sheikh, and we are going to talk about the types of British visas. Thank you very much, Usman, for being here in the channel, for sharing all your knowledge and information. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks very much, Tana.
So, what are the type of visas? Before we go through it, I want to know a little bit about your services and your background.
Sure, thanks very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, so my name's Usman and I run Ansar, which is a law firm helping people to obtain visas and passports for the UK. I should also add that we're based here in London, which is the city that I was born in and the city that I've spent most of my life in. So I feel that I'm not just an immigration lawyer, but in particular, a point of contact for people in London, people that want to come to London from all around the world.
That's amazing. So you have known EU, and are now Europeans and non-British to get a job in the UK.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that the way I see it is I try to bring the whole world together here in London. And so, as you say, that includes people from Europe and people from outside Europe as well.
All right. So what are the type of visas?
Sure. So, I mean, there are many different types of visas to come to the UK, but I think there are a few main categories. So
Sure.
One is work visas. So that's for people that want to come here mainly for the purpose of work. Then, of course, there are study visas for people who want to come here to study. There are family visas as well, people who are coming here for family reasons. And then other visas. Also, it's important to mention nationality applications too. It's possible to come here and then become a British citizen. And my firm helps with all of these visas and the nationality applications too.
And what are the names of these visas? Because, for example, in Ireland, we have the stamp 1 visa, which is the working visa, and then the stamp 2, which is the student visa. And then we have the stamp 4, which is a mix. It's a little bit of mess in Ireland. So what are the names for the British visas?
Sure. So it's an important question to ask, not an entirely easy one to answer, partly because the British government has been changing the immigration system a lot recently due to Brexit. And one of the things that they've done in that is to change a lot of the names around. So and quite a few of the names are not very familiar at the moment. But to give you one example, if you want to come here for the purpose of work, particularly if you want to come here as an employee, then the name of the visa or the main visa is the skilled worker visa. Okay. That's one option. There's another option which is less well known, which is called a sole representative visa. So that's another one to think about. There's also an intracompany transfer visa. So that's where, for example, if you work for a multinational corporation and they are moving you from an office overseas to an office in the UK. But as I say, there are many different visa options in the UK.
Okay, very good. And you are specialized in the working visa, or you specialize in all the visas? Would you have a specific visa that you're kind of very into or expert?
Sure. I think that the way I normally phrase it is that, in terms of my work and I think in my firm generally, we specialize in the sense that we deal with immigration law and not other areas of law. So we don't deal with employment law or family law, etc., etc. But within immigration, we do all kinds of immigration. And so sometimes that could be work migration, sometimes it could be family migration, it could be investment migration. There are lots of different options. And, one of the things I think we do, one of the reasons why we do that is that I think, it's very difficult to separate these things out. And sometimes when a client comes to you and says that they want one type of visa, and actually in the end it may be that a different type of visa is more appropriate for them. And so you can only really advise them properly if you're aware of all of the different visa options.
Okay, I understand. And so how is going to be now with the tourist visa? So I'm European, okay, I have time citizenship. So to go to the UK, would I need a tourist visa now?
Yeah, so again, that's a really good question. So generally speaking, European Union citizens don't require a visa in advance to come here as tourists. Okay. So, the very simple situation, say a family in Italy wants to come to the UK on holiday. That's, generally speaking, that's no problem. They can just come here and they will be allowed to stay here normally for up to 6 months. The issue with all of this is that they can only come here for the purpose of tourism. They can't come here for, say, for example, for the purpose of work. And some European Union citizens have already this year been caught out with this. And there have been a few stories in the news about some European nationals who've come to the UK, they've arrived at the airport, the immigration officer has said, "Why have you come here?" They've said, "I've come here for the purpose of work. I want to come here to work," not really realizing or not thinking about the impact of Brexit on all of this. And as a result of that, unfortunately, they've been detained. They've been put in a detention center for several days, and then put on the next plane back to their country of origin. And the reality is, for many of those people, it's going to be very difficult to come to the UK in the future, because that's always going to be on their record that happened to them. So it's really, really important for people to understand what the change has been and what impact it has on them.
Okay. But what if I say I'm here for a business trip? I'm going to meet like a client.
Yeah, so you've raised an important question there, Tana, if I may say. And I think it's exactly the sort of area in which it's important to start thinking about taking legal advice in this kind of situation, because although yes, generally it's easy to come here as a visitor, there are very specific immigration rules for visitors about what they are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. Okay, so it's really important for people to think about those things. And the example that you gave, they're coming here for business meetings. Look, generally speaking, that's going to be fine. And of course, the British government realizes and encourages people to come here for business reasons. The British government wants to encourage business and international business, especially here in London. Okay, but at the same time, it's important to remember that a lot of these conversations are conversations that people will have with an immigration officer on the border in the UK, and those conversations are not always easy conversations to have. And if you like, those people are looking very specifically at compliance with the rules. Okay, and if some of those people anyway, if they think that there's any chance that you're going to be breaking the rules, that your visit won't meet the rules and conditions for coming here, then they may refuse you entry, and as happened to those other people, send you back to your country of origin.
Yes, that's something we really don't like to happen, right?
Yeah, of course. And look, I would certainly say, from my point of view as an immigration lawyer, it's always much easier to help you before a problem has happened, to avoid a problem happening in the first place. Of course, if you come to me after you've been refused entry, I can still try to help you out, but it's just a lot more difficult.
Sure. And it's possible for a professional, that got tourist visa, let's say a Brazilian that went to the UK, let's say a software developer. So the software developer went to the UK for tourism, all right? And after 1 month, this professional got actually a job offer. It's possible to change the tourist visa to work visa while in the UK.
Yeah, so in general, the answer is no. It's
All
not
right.
possible to do that. And that's a very important point for the UK government. They really try to make sure that people who are coming here for temporary purposes only come here on a temporary basis, that they don't try to stay here permanently. That's a really, really important point. And there are a lot of very serious consequences if you do get it wrong. And so, for example, if you do try to start working in the UK, when you only have a tourist visa, there are a lot of very serious consequences in that kind of situation, which of course we can talk about if you'd like to.
Yes, okay. That's interesting to know. And what are the requirements to obtain a working visa?
Yeah, so generally speaking, in order to obtain a work visa, the first and most important thing is going to be to find an employer that has a license from the government allowing it to sponsor you. Okay.
Sure.
Now, that is a fairly complicated process that the employer needs to go through. And so if they have a sponsor license, they'll certainly know about it. Okay. And so if you do make inquiries with them, they should be able to answer that sort of question. I should add that there is also a public register of sponsors. And so you may be able to find your potential employer there as well.
Amazing. Thank you for this.
Yeah, sure. So I'd be happy to share any of that information with you.
Amazing. Very good. We can leave here in the video.
Sure.
That's good. Thank you. All right. So the license and any other requirements?
Yeah, so there are many other requirements. I think the most important thing is that the employer needs to have a license, and then they need to provide official confirmation that they're going to sponsor you. It's called a certificate of sponsorship. Okay. Now, provided you can get that certificate of sponsorship, normally, not always, but normally, your visa application should be fairly simple. But the issue, if you like, the obstacle is often getting that certificate of sponsorship. So that means persuading the employer to sponsor you. Okay, because from their point of view, historically in particular, sponsoring you has meant quite a lot of bureaucracy and quite significant costs for them. Okay, so that's the really important thing, and there are a number of specific requirements that go with that, which we can discuss as well.
Okay, very good. Would the employer need to post the job for a month and make sure or prove to the government that, like he wasn't able to find a British employee to fulfill this position?
Yeah, I'm really glad that you asked me that question, Tana, because in the past there was a requirement like that. It was necessary for the employer to show that they couldn't find a worker over here who could do the job. However, one of the things that the government has done is to remove that requirement. Okay, and they've done that partly because they want to try to make the process easier and quicker for employers. Okay, so that, if you like, in a way, that's a very big change that has received very little publicity, and it's one of the reasons why I say that, for those employers who are willing to invest in a sponsor license, I think that it can actually be a real kind of asset to them, because actually in many ways it can give them a lot of freedom to hire people from overseas in a way that they frankly could not in the past.
Sure, that's very good. Very good. And all right, so once you have the offer, okay, and can the employee apply itself, or it necessarily needs to come from the employer, kind of action to apply and pay for the application. Can the employee pay for the application and do all the application itself?
Yeah, so that's a really important question. So the employee will make the application themselves after they've been given the sponsorship by the employer. Now, the question of costs, I think in particular, is going to be very important for many people because, often the government fees alone for these visa applications can be several £1,000s. You'll be looking at £2,000–3,000 and more just for one person. Okay, and significantly more, for example, if they want to bring their whole family. To say, it's husband, wife, and few children, you can see that the cost can be very significant. And so I think often in those cases, there's going to be a very serious discussion between the employer and the employee about who's going to be paying all those costs.
That's a very good question, because in Ireland it's 1,000 euros, which is quite low for application. So
certainly. I think the UK visa fees, it's one of the biggest kind of problems with the UK immigration system. Even if you put all of the complexity of the immigration rules to one side, just the fees on their own are a massive issue. They're a big barrier for many people and for many small businesses as well. And in fact, I've spoken to many immigration lawyers overseas, including in the United States. And I think even, compared to other countries, whether it's US, Australia, or anywhere else, I think the UK has amongst the highest visa fees, if not the highest in the world, So I think that's a major issue for many people.
I understand. Okay, so it's actually ideal to hire a solicitor, a expert like yourself, because if the first application goes wrong, then to apply again would cost even more, right?
Yeah, exactly. As I say, so generally, most of those government fees that you're paying, most of them are not refundable. And so in that way, it's quite simple for the government to refuse an application, and then you make another application and you have to pay the fees all over again, And in terms of engaging a lawyer, I think it is sensible. It's a sensible approach to the system, and hiring a lawyer, it doesn't necessarily always have to mean engaging them to provide all of their services. It could be that, for example, you are happy and you understand most of the process, but you have a few questions that you want to ask, a few certain matters that you don't understand, and it's perfectly possible to engage a lawyer to deal with those specific issues.
Very good. Yeah, well, my second question would be, what are the main challenges in obtaining the UK visa? You just, I think, answer it.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I can say, I think the main challenges are two things. One is the complexity of the immigration rules, and the other one is the cost of the visas. I mean, we haven't talked much about the complexity of the immigration rules, and what I will say is this: obviously, certain visas are very simple, and certain aspects of visas can be very simple, and so the government certainly provides fairly simple summaries of the main requirements for most visa categories. And so to that extent, it's certainly possible to think, well, this is all very straightforward, I can do it all myself. However, it is simply a fact that UK immigration law is vast. And so the brief summaries that you'll see online are a very small part of the overall system. And the government does have lots of other rules, lots of other policies, and also quite a lot of discretion, quite a lot of choice in individual applications about whether to say yes or no. And this is a fact that's been recognized by the courts in this country. And so, even the most senior courts in this country have said many times that immigration law is one of the most complicated areas of law in this country.
Yes, that's sad now, like for Europeans and non-British, professionals because, well, getting a job in the UK for some people is the dream.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and I think some people in the British government, some people at least, do recognize that that's a dream for many people, and they do want to keep that dream alive. And so, even very recently, in the government's political announcements, they've been talking about trying to make improvements to the immigration system to encourage people from overseas to come here, particularly in certain sectors. But I think generally speaking, they do understand that they want to make Britain a kind of a hub or an important kind of center for global business.
Yes. So now I see two type of profiles applying for working visa. So the employee that's already in the UK studying, let's say English student or even a tourist, and they have been working like even part-time for a small company, and this small company liked the professional very much, and they're willing to pay for this employee visa. This is one of the profiles which would be very hard now for this small company to hire this professional. And the second profile will be the highest skilled professional, that's not living in the UK, that's being headhunted and is going to enter the UK already with the working visa. I see these two types of profiles.
Yeah, so certainly, I think that's a really important distinction. And I think generally speaking, if you were to ask the British government, they would probably say they prefer the second type of candidate. They prefer the kind of person that is highly skilled and obtains their visa in advance and comes here for the purpose of work. That is generally what they prefer. That's what they want. But having said all of this, I think it's important to remember that there are opportunities for students in particular, to sometimes for students to come here and work while they're studying. And also, I should say, in some of the government's recent announcements, that they have talked about introducing a visa option specifically for students who are in the UK to allow them to stay in the UK. So those people won't need to return to their country of origin. They will hopefully be able to find an appropriate employer in the UK who doesn't necessarily need to have a sponsor license and then stay in the UK for the purpose of work. So I think in many ways that's a real kind of positive announcement from the government for international students in the UK.
Yes, because in Ireland we have the Stamp 1G, which is that Stamp 1 graduate visa. So all the professionals, all the students that have graduated master's and bachelor degrees, they get like 1 year, either 1 or 2, to work full time in Ireland after studies. So they have this 1 to 2 years gap to be able, not gap, but time to find an employer that's willing to sponsor them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's really important, Tana. And I think the UK did previously have a visa option of that sort. They then removed it for various reasons. And if you like, their recent announcements show that they effectively they want to reintroduce it. And I think the comparison with Ireland is really important because although I'm a lawyer, I'm not a politician, it does seem to me that the UK is aware of the fact, if you like, it's in a competition with countries like Ireland, and Ireland, which is, after all, our neighbour and an English-speaking neighbour in particular, which could potentially stand to benefit a lot from Brexit. Ireland could now start to attract a lot of the people that the UK previously attracted. And I think I think the British government's aware of that and is trying to take steps to prevent, if you like, too big a change from happening.
Yeah, because so right now students after graduation cannot work in the UK. So they don't have this option right now.
Yeah, so generally speaking, they, you know, it's been, if you like, it's been very difficult for them in the past. You know, students wanting to stay on in the UK, there have been very limited options. There have been some options, but not very many. But I think the new route that they want to introduce, you know, about which, of course, I can provide further details at some point if you like. But the new route is going to make that quite a lot easier for a lot of students in the UK.
Good, very good. Thank you very much, Usman, for sharing your knowledge, your information. Thank you for being here in the channel.
Thanks very much, Sana.
Yeah, and guys, if you like the video, give a thumbs up, share it, leave your comments here, and that's it. We see each other in the next video. Bye.